Hello everyone and welcome to your horoscope for the week of July the 31st, August the 6th, 2023. We have quite an intense week ahead of us, and this is for more than one reason. The first, without a doubt, is we are still getting used to the nodal shift, where the nodes of the moon have shifted into Aries and Libra axis from Taurus Scorpio. But that isn't, the most important component for the intensity. Better said, the stress or the inner tension which of course can be enforced by a lot of outer tension. So Pluto is squaring the nodes of the moon. So this kind of makes us feel under pressure. May that pressure come from inner forces, may that pressure come from external forces, but usually it's both, a little bit of both. But we do feel this urgent need to make progress soon, fast, quickly, and of course to embody our sovereignty. North Node in Aries, conjunct planetoid Aries, and this conjunction is going to last all summer and also a lot of the autumn. And of course the T-square with Pluto is also going to last, but this is where we are in the period when it's really tight, it's really exact, so we're feeling it quite intensely. Now the other energy also at the very beginning of the week is the super full moon in Aquarius. Now Aquarius on its own is a very rebellious energy. It is a very, intense sign which is really, how should I say, susceptible to uprising, to outbursts of power, of truth, of emotion, of elation. And this super full moon, which means that the moon is that much closer to the earth, so emotions, the expressions of the energy are going to be felt that much stronger. And Aquarius is all about the individual and the collective both at the same time. So how or what is going to be stirring up our feelings, our emotions? What is going to cause us to at least react emotionally? So if this super full moon wasn't enough, it's also squared T-square by Jupiter in the sign of Taurus. Now, the square with Jupiter isn't exact. Jupiter is going to be at 13-14 degrees of Taurus, while this super full moon takes place at around 9 degrees and 14-16 minutes, something like that. But the expansive power and qualities of Jupiter are still going to be there. The Sun at 9 degrees of Leo, it's all about our hearts. And Leo also has Venus retrograde and Black Moon Lilith in there along with the Sun. Mercury has freshly exited the sign of Leo, going into its home sign of Virgo. But at the time of this full moon, Mercury holds an exact opposition with Saturn. So, it might not be able to bring forward its, higher qualities at the time of the full moon. The way this energy can play out is, Mercury opposing a Saturn, especially Mercury in the cerebral, meticulous, calculated sign of Virgo. It's nighttime expression, where it's really cerebral and meticulous. Now, Saturn can be a limiting force. Pisces can represent unconscious forces. It can represent spiritual forces. It can represent our moods and feelings, especially triggered by hormones or, the inner voter, so to speak. But it can also represent the past. Saturn retrograde in Pisces. Something comes back from the past. Something, is highlighted from the past. Action and reaction, because Saturn is a very karmic planet. And opposing Mercury, we have to, our mind, our processing skills, pause, stop for a moment to behold it, to integrate it. And this can also represent where our minds, the processing function of the mind stops for a tiny bit to react to the Aquarius full moon, to the super full moon. In our individual lives, the way I do see this energy play out is that something, of course, comes to our awareness, because the ruling planet of the full moon is Uranus, planet of awareness, shocks, surprises, epiphanies, the cold, hard sword of truth, objective truth, descending down upon us. And also Uranus is at 22, a rather critical degree of the sign of Taurus. So without a doubt, it's about truth, something coming to our awareness. Mercury opposing Saturn, it can also be related to some kind of truth. What has been going on in the past, because Pisces is also the sign of secrets. Secrets, especially things that are not necessarily in our awareness, or we might not really have a really valid perception about this, or maybe it might be under a shroud of personal ignorance. It doesn't really matter how it plays out, but something does. We are confronted with something, you know what I mean? Something does bubble up and it reaches our awareness and we have to react to it. We have to process it, Mercury. But because it has a surprising, a shocking factor, full moon in Aquarius, we need to take it very, very slowly. We need to integrate it, as I said, because we have to find the meaning of what it is, what it means, how it translates to us personally. Sun in the sign of Leo, that adds the feeling, the heart space. How does our heart react to it? How does our heart feel about it? And also at the time of the full moon, Black Moon Lilith, also in Leo, holds a trine with Aries, goddess of discord. So that's a really, really rebellious energy. Chances are there is going to be like a burst, a combustion of the heart, of passion, of feelings, of emotion. This can also be quite rebellious. When the heart says, well, I had enough of this. Or the heart says, I'm taking matters into my own hands. This aspect is not very good for patience, but Mercury opposing Saturn might not leave us any other choice but to be patient, because we might not be able to have any power over whatever comes up in our lives at the moment when it does. And again, going back to Jupiter expanding this full moon. Sun in Leo, how the heart feels. A moon in Aquarius, what it means to us in our higher understanding, our higher sense of logic. Because Mercury in the sign of Virgo, that can represent our down-to-earth, the lower mind type of logic, what it means to us, in 3D immediately. Aquarius, on the other hand, may see the bigger picture, what it means for our future, what it means, for our connections, our place in society, or where we belong to based on our ideals, our principles, our aspirations. And Jupiter is also the planet of subjective truth. In the sign of Taurus, value. What is valuable to us, our inner values, our sense of self-worth, self-esteem. What values are we personally able to bring to the table? And, how does that go well with our future, with our hopes, with our dreams? The sign of Aquarius, very individually speaking, but even collectively, as a species, as, members of a society, a state, a country, an ethnicity, etc., etc. We can have collective hopes and dreams and aspirations, whatever it is that we need to have in our lives, so to speak. So this full moon is going to be quite revelatory in that sense. It will definitely shed light on whatever is worthy to have our energy, our focus, our initiation, our passion, our love, our, simply said, energy, and what is futile, in our hopes and dreams, connections, friendships, wherever it is that we belong to. Something is definitely outdated, something is no longer reflective of who it is that we are, our greater authenticity, our worth, and whatever it is that we desire to live in the future. And under this Pluto T-square of the nodes of the moon, especially this is where the South Node in Libra, old relationship, old contracts, old agreements, old even karmic soul contracts that are already outdated and might be taking up our power, our energy, our focus, our inner strength, basically, our love, why not? Those are starting to fade. This is like a very powerful cord cutting energy, but this is where we have to take back our power and cut the cord. But before we can do that, we need the truth, we need the revelation, we need the inner light to see what is worth it and what is not. And also the South Node in Libra, those relationships which do service, which do hold potential. And again, this is not just romantic, this is anything, contract, one-on-one alliance, collaboration, anything with the 7th house. So those who are worth it, those relationship alliances which we do deem worthy, well, that's a clear indication that that is where we need to invest our energies. Well, for some other people still, especially those who do not have any connections in their lives. Of course, in this modern day, to say not have any connections, that is, not very true, because everyone has internet, everyone has neighbors, only a total hermit might be someone who doesn't have any connections. But we might not have any connections which serve us, which are relevant, which means something deeper to us, which means something for our future in that sense. So those people who do not feel that they have any valid connections, this might be a time where that full moon reveals where it is that they need to progress forward. With what type of connections, communities, groups, friends, people, etc., or just ideals are worthy to, hold their energy, are worthy of investment of energy. But of course, if you'd like to find out more about this full moon in the sign of Aquarius, I have a separate video analyzing this, and I'm going to link in the description below to that video. So moving on, later on in the week as we progress forward, Mercury is starting to leave the opposition with Saturn. And this is where we might be feeling the mercurial energies, the empowerment of Mercury in the sign of Virgo, returning back into our lives. Because ignoring the full moon, just the simple opposition of Mercury and Saturn, well, especially for Mercurials, this might represent moments when our mind just doesn't want to play ball, it just doesn't want to focus. We might be, lost, immersed, but in a way where there's no short journey back, in nostalgia, in memories, in whatever things that we still need to complete, still need to do, still need to achieve, but they're not immediate energy. They are at one point in the future, or have been, waiting for us from the past, but we cannot take action yet. But of course, this is where the mind can also dwell into some kind of fantasy, playfulness, or we might feel a strong lethargy, especially with the mental energy. We cannot think fast, we cannot solve equations, problems. We just want our mind, to be free of duties, of tasks, so to speak. But this energy won't, take very long. It's just at the very beginning of the week. And then Mercury, a very fast moving planet, will leave the opposition with Saturn, although Virgo is the sign where Mercury is going to go retrograde, but that is for another horoscope. It's not yet. But again, whatever comes to our awareness, whatever we are finding solutions to, we must take into consideration when this Mercury goes retrograde, we might have to go back on all those themes. And of course, Mercury will, as it goes retrograde, will meet Saturn in an opposition again. So we have to consider that side of the things as well. But immediately, especially at the beginning and at the end of the week, this is quite a good energy because, it gets us back on track. And speaking about Virgo, Virgo is going to be highlighted all throughout the week because it has Mars in it, Mars, planet of action, and Mars also holds a harmonious celestial conversation, a trine, a blessing with Jupiter also in the sign of Taurus. And this is one of the best energies of the week because this means the true value, the true worth that you feel, that you embody, that breaks out. It manifests one way or another. Mars trine Jupiter is also good for anything that has to do with justice. Sometimes divine justice, because Mars doesn't hold this trine alone. It is conjunct dwarf planet Orcus. So Orcus, especially in the sign of Virgo, is about that all those things which have been promised to you, or all those things which are of your divine right, have to, one way or another, show up in your life. You have to be the recipient of them. Mars also favors work, meticulosity, sacrifice, servitude, anything that has to do with mastery, learning, investing these energies into, anything that holds value. Well, this can go a very long way. And also Pallas Athena, a planet, actually an asteroid, because Pallas Athena is not a planetoid. She is more like a really large asteroid, one, I do believe, the second largest, but her symbolism has to do with tactics, with the power of our anticipation, with the power of our problem-solving skills, especially mentally. So in the sign of Virgo, she is very, very, powerful. And the fact that she is very close to Mercury, and towards the end of the week, she's going to be even closer to Mercury, that's a really good energy. Because, again, I say, trine with Jupiter. Jupiter in mythology, Jupiter was the birthing energy of Pallas Athena, because the legend goes that she was born out of Jupiter's head, where Jupiter did have to crack his head to release Pallas Athena, but she was born as an adult, fully formed, fully, powerful goddess out of Jupiter's head. So this is quite a good energy because Pallas Athena and Jupiter work very well together, especially in harmonious conversations. Something is born, an idea, a solution, a tactic. This energy is really good for anyone who is looking for a job, looking to give a service, so to speak. But again, I'm really sorry, but I have to go back at the beginning of the week, where Mercury and Saturn's opposition can also represent us reevaluating where it is that our service is placed in a really, really good and supportive way for everyone, and where it is that we misplace our service, where we might just sacrifice our time and energy, where our service might not really do a lot of good because it can make people lazy. It can basically not reflect our true values, where our service might be really, really undervalued. So this opposition between Mercury and Saturn is also about that. How do we get much greater value for our service, for our sacrifice, for Mercury and both Mars in the sign of Virgo can also represent our everyday job, or the service, self-service sometimes. How do we serve our situation, ourself, our needs much more, efficiently, much more in a Jupiterian way, where our beliefs are also rewarded. This is an earth trine. So there has to be some kind of material or physical or bodily manifestation, because you must not forget that Taurus is also about our five senses, where what pleasure means to us personally and the value within pleasure. What is the value within pleasure? That it fills our souls, our bodies, our mind with power, with, all the reasons that we need to embrace and love and feel really, really good about earthly incarnation, physical being, so to speak. But going back, to this Virgo energy, where again I have to say we have Mercury, Pallas Athena, Mars, and dwarf planet Orcus. Of course, dwarf planet Orcus is gonna be there for quite a long time because it's a very slow moving planet. But needless to say, all of these planets that I mentioned earlier are gonna conjunct Orcus. So Orcus is about keeping one's oath. Orcus is also about creating. If Pluto is highlighting, punishing, so to speak, destroying everything that is corrupt, everything that is, distorted, like a mutation of the truth, then dwarf planet Orcus creates, fixes it, repairs it, or creates something new to be harmonious to what is needed for creation. And both of these planets, Pluto and Orcus, have to be seen in a larger sense. Of course, they can express themselves quite personally as well, but usually these are collective. These have to be valid in the bigger picture of things. And speaking about Pluto, Pluto is at 28 degrees at this moment of Capricorn, so it is really, really grinding down political corruption, top-down authority, our leaders, everything that holds power over us, the expression of Capricorn. So it is exposing corruption, and ultimately it is inviting all of us, and of course this Orcus type of expression of energy, to create the new, to create that which is not corrupt, to create on foundations of purity and, reflecting of our greatest truth. Sun in the sign of Leo, and especially with Venus retrograde, invites us to build with love, to build with passion, to build with purity, and Jupiter invites us to build with justice, even divine justice. And speaking about justice, there is another planetoid which has to do with justice, Varuna, conjunct the Sun, especially at the time of this full moon. Varuna is divine justice, divine laws, the divine harmony which knows how to keep the integrity of creation in balance. So that's quite a powerful conjunction, because that is what is reflecting of our heart space. And Venus also holds a trine, especially this week, with Aries, dwarf planet Aries. So that can also represent the rebellious energies of the heart and our heart space. This is where we demand to have that which is rightfully ours, or to be treated as we deserve to be treated. Venus retrograde again is looking back at everything that we have done so far. Do we love it? Or in which degree do we love it? And how, in which degree does it make us feel lovable, worthy of love? We must not forget that Venus retrograde is opposing at one moment that moon in the sign of Aquarius. Not at the moment of the full moon, but after, as the moon transits the sign of Aquarius, there will be an opposition when Venus retrograde opposes the moon, and also Black Moon Lilith. So that will be quite a relevant energy when it really, really sinks into our feelings. Certain lessons of this larger Venus retrograde transit in the sign of Leo. And also, please allow me to look at my notes. else oh, and yes, another energy which is very important, Black Moon Lilith squaring Uranus. This also points to the rebellious factor of this week, where either due to that full moon in Aquarius, which does shed light on something, or any kind of, stimuli, this is the rebellious heart. We know what we want, we know what we deserve, we know what we need, especially Uranus in Taurus, our earthly needs. Again, the five senses. And the five senses, of course, are what stimulates us, what makes us be happy to be here and matter. But in the other way, in another sense, it can also represent everything that we need to be comfortable in matter. And in this day and age, it's not just nature, Taurus, nature, but it's also our modern nature. Every, for example, device, electronic, internet, everything that basically that we need in our lives to be at least on the floating line. And comfort very many times is seen as quite a negative force, but other times it is simply necessary for us to operate in normal parameters. So this comfort is a dual energy, where sometimes it spoils us, but other times it is basically our normal parameters to function. And at this moment, I do believe that it's about our normal parameters to function. And comfort means different things to different people. And this is perhaps what Uranus highlights in the sign of Taurus. We have to look at what our own specific needs for comfort are. What it is in our life that works for us. Because if comfort elevates us, if comfort makes us a tiny bit more happier, more comfortable in our lives, in our own skin, in our own earthly matters, well, that is a positive boost. That is a catalyzing factor. So we must not condemn it, and we must embrace it, especially, through deep self-knowledge. What comfort means to us personally, and how can it be used to support us, to catapult us to our future. And this week, later on in the week, especially towards the end, the Sun is also gonna square Jupiter. And this is exactly how I see this energy playing out. We need to be truthful with ourselves. What do we actually need in our lives? Because for another person, it might not be essential. It might not be necessary. It might not represent great value. But if for us personally it does represent value, then we have to accept and embrace this truth and integrate it in our lives. So the way I see the Sun playing out, the Sun square Jupiter playing out, is what does justice, what does equilibrium, what does being at least okay in an earthly form, in our earthly lives mean for us personally. And whatever we realize, chances are we have to pursue. We have to choose it. And we have to embrace it with love. Of course, another way this energy can play out is overindulgence. It is like very strong self-centeredness. Because of course, Jupiter can be represented as subjective truth. Highly subjective. And that might, play out, because also the Sun in Leo is what we project on others. Our inner light, our creativity, our ego, our identity. And if it's too much, then we can come through as narcissistic, as very, very highly self-centered. And of course, those energies, those expressions of the energies are not going to favor everyone, because chances are it will distance people away from us, and our social connections will suffer because of this. While for other people it can be their work, their value, their income, their money. Jupiter in the sign of Taurus. No one wants to support someone narcissistic, someone deeply self-centered, someone who very, very obviously, without a shadow of a doubt, serves the self, more the self than any. In the age of Aquarius, that doesn't necessarily work. But the North Node in the sign of Aries, and we must not forget that Venus, retrograde in Leo, does hold a trine with the North Node in Aries. North Node in Aries also conjunct Aries. We cannot go into the opposite extreme where the self doesn't matter, it's all about the collective, it's all about other people, or it's all about the divine. It has to be, equal. It has to, but what equal means for you personally, it has to be balanced, it has to be equilibrious, because the self also matters, especially, with this Aquarius full moon. There is the collective and the greater good of everyone, as I said, the collective, but there also has to be the greater good of the individual, because it is the individual who is the smallest, so the core component of the collective. So it matters very, very, very much. Again, personal sovereignty, personal needs, personal path towards happiness, personal initiatives, innovative energy. That's very much in this context, right? Full moon in Aquarius. Don't get me wrong, it will be also revelatory of new technologies. Anything that has to do with science, with technological progress, innovation, new ideas, new theories, new philosophies, quantum physics, space exploration, artificial intelligence, all the miracles and wonders that it can bring to the table, but square Jupiter, how we feel about it. Because if something is way too futuristic and it just doesn't go well with morality, if you know what, collective morality, not necessarily religiously, but morality, the common sense of morality, when we just know that something will have a lot of negative sides to it because people can't handle it, for example, then it will be contested. It will be, at least raised as a potential issue in the future. So yes, revelation of new technology and path forward, but also people opposing to those elements which are kind of dangerous morally, socially, etc., etc. Or the danger might not even have to be very real. For example, if a super artificial intelligence based technology might take away the jobs of certain highly skilled people, then it will definitely not be seen with positive, eyes or a positive feeling. So this will play out the way it does. Aquarius is dichotomous in nature. It's both plus and minus. It's both dark and light. So, it's duality existing, coexisting together. So this will definitely have certain nuances about this duality being highlighted. But of course, the other side is deeply futuristic, where we have no choice but to truly progress and navigate towards the future collectively and individually alike. Now, looking at my notes, I do find it really, really relevant that Mercury is gonna be sandwiching, Mercury and Mars are gonna be sandwiching Pallas Athena and Orcus. This means that Mercury has 10 degrees, Pallas Athena 12 degrees, Orcus 14 degrees, and Mars 16 degrees of the sign of Virgo at the very, very end of the week. So this does mean that Mercury is at one end and Mars at the other end, containing together this conjunction between Orcus and Pallas Athena. This to me says really, really strong brainstorming energy. When something that you tried and tried and tried, trial and error, where the failures and the non-successful tries are equally as important, finally do bring something to the table, a solution, a methodology, your own unique coping skill, your own unique solution. And all of these planets are trining Jupiter. So this comes as a blessing. This comes as reality permissive of something. Something that you have invested a lot of energy and effort into. And this also goes very well with at the beginning of the week when we have the Mercury opposing Saturn. As in, slow down, look at what is working from all your efforts, all your experiments, all your trials and errors. Don't rush to something new. First examine that which actually holds value in your life. So this, without a doubt, to me, this is a big blessing. The universe is actually permissive of something that you tried and tried and tried again. Sometimes you succeeded, other times just partially, but at this time something can really, really come into your life as a massive blessing. Your mastery, your, as I said, effort, your studies, your research, your work, your blood, sweat and tears playing off handsomely, either as a methodology, as a tactic spell, as Athena, as an idea, as a plan, or as, a project, as already a job, for example, an alliance, which is the key to the future. But it is only now that it comes to the awareness that, yep, that is going to be working. I'm going to be investing my energy, my effort, my resources into that. Or it can be like an instant manifestation that here it is. Whatever it is that you needed is here already, and you just need to make it work. You need to integrate it in your life. Also, the Sun holds a sextile with Ceres in the sign of Libra. That's a really, really good energy, because Libra can be the alliance that is working. Alliances, friendships, partnerships, bringing value, or any kind of nurturing energy into your life. Of course, this can be like your partner buying you food, your partner cooking for you. This is the most, and Sun in Leo, you are loving it. You are delighted by this. This is one of the, most light-hearted expression, but replace food and cooking, with words, with contract, with resources, with encouragement, with research, communication in a methodological sense. A partner, an ally, research something for you and they communicate it. So if you don't have certain solutions, don't worry, someone else, a partner, a person, a group, a job, an institution does have. And this is also really favorable for justice. Sun square Jupiter. This might be how are you going to bring justice to your life, and this can be in a courts of justice, contracts, etc., etc. And Ceres finally being a solution, something that works, or the right path forward. So this is what I see this week playing out. Again, I have to say it can be quite intense with the Pluto squaring the node, T-squaring the nodes of the moon, and also with the full moon in Aquarius being really rebellious and shedding light on something, and with Mercury opposing Saturn in Pisces, a secret comes out, or you are invited to behold a secret and integrate it. So it can be quite intense in so very many different ways, but Jupiter trining Mars especially, I do see it as a big blessing, as solutions, as something that is working in your life, showing up. Thank you so much everyone for listening. I do hope that this was helpful. If you'd like to support my channel and my work, you can share, you can thumbs up, because I do need subscribers. Or you can donate in the PayPal link in the description below. Thank you everyone, wishing you a blessed week. Until next time, bye for now.